Take two. Take two. Okay. This is a scripted version of Unscripted because if I had tried to do this off the top of my head, it would not have worked out well because I generally tend to stumble more without a script than I do with a script. So this is a response to Joseph Niles, who wrote in regarding the January 8th episode of Daily 5. So first of all, thank you, Joseph, for your response. In response to your question, why I refer to India as Mother India, the reason is because I am speaking from a Hindu perspective, as India is mother and father to all Hindus. When I speak from my Jewish roots, I speak our kingdom Israel, or the king of Mountain Sinai. Excuse me. When I speak from my Islamic roots, I speak the mother region for Arabia. I'm aware that when people see me, their first thought is black man from America. That's more than likely from America. This is only part accurate. I don't deny that my biological father's people are of descendants of slaves of Africa. I would never dishonor my biological father's roots by denying that I am connected to him. I cannot because Torah, one of the law codes I go by, it says that you cannot dishonor you cannot dishonor your parents. You cannot divorce your blood ties from who you are. While sometimes I do want to do that, I cannot do that. I'm not allowed to do this because the king God of Mountain Sinai says so. And because I respect his authority in my life is why I don't do it. Excuse me. I mentioned my father's side. Now I will mention my mother's side. My mother's family are a mixture of Irish people, indigenous people, and descendants of slaves of Africa. If one were to see my mother, to the naked eye, she appears to be white or of mixed cultures. So while my mother may say she's black, DNA says she is mostly Irish with black and indigenous mixed in. As my mother's father, is Irish, my grandfather's genes have proven more dominant in my mother's skin tone, whereas with myself, my father's genes proved more dominant in my skin tone than my mother's genes. I'm sure you're wondering why I seem to not have any love for Africa. But I'm sure you're wondering if I have any love for Africa. Unfortunately, I do have love for Africa, but I'm not as drawn to Africa as I would like to be drawn in the heart. I have not been this way since I was a child. For whatever reason, since I was a child, I've been drawn to Far East Asia, or India, more than I have ever been drawn to Africa. Just a little backstory. Growing up, I was taught the value of blackness. Yes, definitely taught that. That's the majority reason why I came up partly with the concept of what has become Video Network. What I wanted done was to not give too much away of what the vision I have in my mind is. I've wanted to produce something as my personal way of giving back to all the elders that helped raise me, to show them that I never forgot one thing you taught me all my life. Not one thing did I forget. So this is my way of giving back by doing what I have in mind to do, that I'm not revealing the rest of it. I prefer to do as Keenan Ivory Wayans did for Richard Pryor. When Keenan Ivory Wayans spoke the words to Richard Pryor that Keenan wanted to produce the television show in living color as a physical thank you to Richard Pryor for what Richard Pryor inspired Keenan to do. Like unto Keenan, I'm choosing to do the same thing with the business I've helped in creating with Video Network as a means of physically thanking those of my elders who have inspired me. Even though many of my elders who have inspired me have gone on to the next life, this that you see at Video Network is my physical thank you to them, regardless of time, for what they inspired me to do. Getting back to what I was saying, I have never had hatred for Africa. I've just never been as drawn to Africa as I would have liked in my heart to be drawn to Africa. Yes, growing up, I did see the various different images of African people in the most degrading of ways. Did I ever buy into it? No. But in my spirit, I also felt this is not completely accurate, but I'm also not buying into what I'm being told of African people. Okay, the image that's in my mind is male and female with leopard skin for the male and leopard type of garment for the female, running around in the jungle. I know that is a lie. I always knew it was a lie, even though as a child I was too ignorant to say that. I knew it was a lie. In my heart I knew, therefore I never accepted that. The concept of the bone through the nose of the African, I never accepted. Even before my mother taught me of blackness, I did not accept that image because it just did not feel naturally accurate. It felt like someone was playing with my mind and trying to really push and convince me this is what African people are like. No, I'm not buying it. I hear you, but I'm not buying it. Nope. Similar to how I feel about cult religious philosophies. I heard many things growing up. I just did not choose to embrace it. I did hear it all, heard it all, and just next. I'm not hearing it. Why? Because you're not making any sense. For getting back to Africa, I've always studied African cultures on my own and taken parts of African cultures that make sense to me that harmonize with my feelings. But I've never purposely studied African culture the way you, my brother Joseph, may have thought or wished I had naturally done. But I will get to that in just a moment. As I continue with what I have to present. As for how African students are treated in Mother India, I'm well aware that many Indian people of present day have issues with people who have immigrated to India from various African countries. I am also aware that there are African tribes that have been in India for some thousands of years, and that some Indian people of today don't like to speak of because those Indian persons cannot understand how Africans can be indigenous to India. I'm working on a particular project to explain that truth to both my Indian family in India as well as my Indian family who has immigrated to the States, so that all parties concerned will understand how this came to be from the research I've done from my vantage point, which is not should not be seen as the only vantage point. No, it is a vantage point, not the a small. As of the time of this response to your thoughts, Brother Joseph, I've not yet viewed the article or the link you shared with me, but I am most grateful for the links. I do plan to view them before the end of this week and respond to them. This week being the next week, since this is going to air. This airs Saturday. I am planning on responding by next Saturday. So you'll not hear it this time. You'll hear it on next week's Unscripted, which will still be scripted. But yes, I'm grateful for the links you sent and that you took the time to share with me. And I value you as a fellow human being, and I certainly value you as a viewer of Video Network. On a closing note, Joseph, my brother, and I mean that with all sincerity, that's not me talking fake. That's from the heart. You mentioned something very key to me. I should focus on addressing black people and people from various African countries. While I acknowledge that I have not focused on Africa as much as I probably should, I embrace your idea and will work on adding news from African countries to the Daily Five because, dear brother, you truly do make a valid point. When people of African descent see me, they do expect me to be speaking on black or African issues because to them I look like them, and I apologize. I just never it never occurred to me to consider issues of Africa. I have certainly focused on black people in America with this show, as well as with the message, as well as with the knowledge room. But to be very real, I have noticed that, unfortunately, while all video network shows are marketed towards black people in particular and human beings around the world in general, video networks responses via Facebook come from Arabia, Iraq, and India. So we do market our programs towards black people, particularly in America and throughout the world, but for whatever reason, black people in America are extremely silent on our programming. But again, you mentioned focusing on African issues, and we will do that. Whether Black America comes to the party is on Black America. Just know the invitation to Black America was sent out months ago. We're still waiting for those responses to manifest in the form of people speaking more. With every show that's done, at the end of it, you always see me say to comment below. To this day, I have not seen any comments from representing Black America, much less Ethiopia, who also is. We market toward Ethiopia, but Ethiopia to this day has yet to respond to anything spoken. And it's possibly because no issues on the Daily Five have been geared towards Ethiopia, which I'll take credit for. I'll take the hit for that. That's penalty on me for that. However, with that thought in mind, I will focus on Ethiopia. I will also focus on other African countries and the episodes of Daily Five going forward. Not the most recent edition of Daily Five of this week, but starting this coming Sunday, which I believe will be the 13th. As of Sunday the 13th, the Daily Five for the 14th, if I got my dates right, because I'm not looking at my calendar right now. Those Daily Five episodes will have a section dedicated to Africa, because you're right, Joseph, that Africa needs to be focused on, so I intend to make Africa a part of the Daily Five. Thank you very much for that idea. With that said, I will talk to y'all later. Peace. Oh, hold up. I forgot. Subscribe, like that. Okay, now I'm done.